You are not forgotten.
Mhm.
You are not too much. You are not too broken to be loved. God saw you then and he still sees you now. He knew you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. That's how valuable you are. And so this means that you are chosen. You are a chosen vessel, set apart. Long before anybody did anything to you, God already knew your story before you did.
Sisters, hey, little girl, are you looking for hope? In a world that has lied to you about who you really are. Wrong woman, holding in story she needs to tell.
So happy to make available to you the No More Lies guided workbook and healing journal. Here's a quick peek inside that will help you get your own copy to see what we've been talking about and having a place to write your thoughts as you remember your little girl, identify the lies, find the truth, and then rehearse that truth so that you can walk into the purpose God has called you to. Go to stacyspeakshope.com and order your copy today. Hello, welcome back to Staci Speaks Hope. Today, our guest is Tammy LaCroix. She is the owner of the Marriage Lab LLC. Tammy is a wife, a mother of three, and the host of the podcast called Sex for Saints. She also owns the Marriage Boutique, where she helps women to be healthy and whole. Tammy has been gracious enough to share her little girl story with us today. So, Tammy, we just want to take a moment and welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited to be on your podcast today. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So, what do you know about your little girl? What do you remember? Tell us who she is, how old she is, and what you know about her.
Man, when I start thinking about my little girl, I automatically go to my childhood. So many times people would come to me and they would say, "Where are you from?" And I wouldn't know what to tell them
Mm,
because I was raised in the Bahamas as well as in Atlanta, right? And I have spent my whole life going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I wasn't there consecutively.
mm,
I would spend 1 year in the Bahamas or a couple of months and then go back to Atlanta and then go back. So I was bouncing from back and forth and back and forth. I remember one day I sat down and just thought about how many schools did I go to? And it was 17 different schools,
wow.
17, because we moved a lot. And what I remember is my mom and my dad, they were living in the US because they were from the Bahamas and they were trying to build a life, right? And it was very difficult for them to do that with me and my sister. And
Mm,
so they would allow us to stay with my dad's parents in the Bahamas. I have a lot of family down there, but I would live with his mom. And I was about 7 or 8 years old where I just really wanted my parents because they were
mm,
always gone trying to build their life. But I was always with my grandmother. And my grandmother, they're from this town in the Bahamas called Exuma,
okay.
right? And the Exuma people, they're very known for just being very harsh, very stern.
Mm.
And she didn't mean anything by it, but as a 7 year old, you're just thinking like, man, my grandmother's so
Don't like
mean,
me.
she's so mean. And sorry about that. She's so mean. And I remember one day I just wanted my mom. And it was back then in the days where I don't know if you remember, when you had to make a call for overseas, there was an operator that you had to call. You had to dial zero.
Yeah.
I remember picking up the phone and dialing zero. I was about 7 years old. And I remember the operator coming on and she was like, "How can I help you?" And I was like, "I want to talk to my mom." It's like, "I want to talk to my mom." She was like, "Do you have her number?" Because she wanted to put it in. I was like, "I don't know her number." And
Mm,
she was like, "Well, you have to have her number in order to call." And I couldn't give it to her. And so she hung up. And I remember bawling and crying and saying, like, I just wanted my mom. And my grandmother saw me. She's like, "Why are you crying? Why are you crying?" And I was like, because I want my mom. And she got a little irritated because I wanted my mom.
Yeah.
And so I had a good childhood, but there were moments of good, but then there were also moments of not so good because when I was with my mom, I had a great childhood. I
Hmm.
was loud, like I was an extrovert. I was the type of child that would go on the neighbor's door and be like, "Hey, can your daughter come outside to play?" Like I was very like I was full of life, like, all of the good stuff. But when I was not with her, it was very difficult.
Mm. So I'm going to draw that out a little bit because the thing that I talk about is the lies that we're told as little girls that become the truth. So it was difficult because what were you told about your outgoing self when you weren't with your mom?
I knew that they were trying to build something, but at 7 or 8, I didn't understand that concept. I didn't understand why me and my sister couldn't be with them.
Hmm.
And so it's not so much that lies were being told, it was a matter of, well, why couldn't we be with you while you're going through this process? And the problem with that is, my story has a lot of abuse. And
Hmm.
so when I was with my mom, I was fine. But when I wasn't with her, I was being abused. And it's not their fault because they would leave me in spaces where, you wouldn't think that abuse would happen. Because why would you think if I leave you with my parents or if I leave you with this relative or this relative that they would abuse my kids?
Right.
But unfortunately, that was the case. And so the struggles came with when I wasn't with them, I was being abused.
Okay. And I want to
Mhm.
clarify the lie about who you were. You described an outgoing, vivacious little girl, and you said when you
Yeah,
were not with your mom, you were not like that. It was very difficult. So I was
it's very
trying to
difficult. Yeah,
say,
yeah,
was there a message, whether it was intention, verbal or not? And now you bring in the abuse, which could have a whole nother layer to this of why
yeah,
she wasn't
yeah,
the same little girl.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that in your brain as a
yeah.
7-year-old became
Absolutely,
to make that story to try to make it make sense.
absolutely,
That's what I
absolutely.
call the lie.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
making up a story to help yourself survive and feel safe and feel loved.
for sure, for sure. Um, to be honest, I don't remember,
Mhm.
right? I don't remember what I was telling myself to get through those moments because the only thing that I could think about was that I wanted to be with my parents. I don't remember what I told myself to get through.
Mhm.
Now, I do remember being fun and adventurous and outgoing when I was with my parents. But when I was with my grandparents in that home, I was very reserved, quiet, like isolated,
Mhm.
right? Um, so if I'm thinking about it and trying to go back to those moments,
Mhm.
um, I'm thinking that I don't feel valuable here. I don't feel worthy here,
Ding.
right?
And
I don't
that's the lie.
feel like I'm supposed, yeah, those,
Yeah.
yeah, those were
Yeah.
definitely lies.
Yes.
Because how do you just switch
Yeah.
when you're in a safe space to a space that's supposed to be a safe space, but it ends up not being the safest space, you know? And then having to just keep going back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
even that, there was something, and I acknowledge that that little girl, it was so much that there's not a story you can tell of that specifically. That our brain protects ourselves when we don't remember sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
That was built in to save your sanity at that age.
Oh, for
And
sure.
maybe after, it may have
For
come to
sure.
you someday. And
For sure.
also whatever messaging that was sent to say, be quiet, go, whether it was, you were telling yourself, I need to be not seen. Not only am I not valuable, I need to also be invisible, isolated. That's the opposite of your natural self that you've described.
Yeah.
So I can't be me.
Yeah.
Lie,
Yeah.
panic, and a lot is connected to that. And there's layers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, we were confined, like my grandmother's clean, so the children were not allowed to roam the house. We were confined to one room in the house. Like we were here all day, like we could not go anywhere. So I'm here. I don't have the freedom like I did with my mom, but
Yeah.
now I'm here and I'm stuck in this space all day, you know?
Yeah.
We come out, we go to the table, we eat, and then we go back into we call it the TV room.
Okay.
We call it a TV room,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Some people call it the
So,
parlor, depending on what area,
yeah.
what part of the country you're in. Atlanta would have been the parlor, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Understood. So it wasn't intended to be punishment.
Right,
That was just
right.
the space, the kids, the playroom.
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
didn't go in the living room, but there was
Exactly.
a family room. We could go.
Right.
That white couch.
Exactly.
My mother had a white wool couch. No, we walked past that room and looked at it. It didn't look too hard or long because we might have got,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. You got that room that you cannot play in.
Right, right. So okay,
Exactly.
that paints a little different of a picture because I did like in the closet or somewhere. Maybe
No, 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 no.
my
No.
imagination took it somewhere else.
No, 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 no. I wasn't abused in the sense like we weren't confined to a room for like punishment, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
right? A lot of the trauma that happened to me was like sexual abuse from like family members and things like that. But my grandmother, she didn't abuse us,
Okay.
right? I want to make that clear because she was just very harsh with words. She was
Right.
just a very stern, direct person, very blunt. Like there was no filter.
Yeah. And as a
Hmm.
little girl, I mean,
Yeah.
I taught school, and even seventh graders, I would make it like a cynical remark, and they were just crushed because they didn't get it. And I was like, I was just playing. So the heart of the child, harsh,
Exactly.
direct,
Yeah.
is hard, like you said, mean
Yeah.
and hard.
Hmm.
And I don't understand. And what did I do wrong? And
Yeah.
a whole nother set of swirling lies, stories,
Yeah.
try to make it make sense.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
okay. So the sexual abuse from family members, not to push that
Yeah.
any more than you want to take it, but there's another story. There's another untruth in that.
Yeah. Hmm.
What was that like
Absolutely.
to deal with? And when you went home,
So the the abuse started when I probably was around 8 years old. And it was multiple family members. So we used to bounce around from house to house, be with this family member, this family member. It was so many, state to state. We were all over the place.
mm,
And so, as a little girl, when you're thinking about, you understand that these things are not right, but you just don't know you don't have a voice
yeah,
to be able to defend yourself in these scenarios. Because, these people, they make you feel a little bit small, right? Um, like your voice doesn't matter.
yeah,
Like you're not supposed to have a voice around these things. And so that stays with you.
yeah,
And so for me, as I got older, that transitioned into, okay, um, this space, this space is not safe when
mm,
it comes to how it shaped and molded me because of the amount of abuse that I've experienced was that men are not safe. And so for me, as I grew out older, I began to live out the symptoms of that. And I felt like I needed to take control of my own life, because I didn't feel like anybody could do it for me. And so I became this very toxic person, this very aggressive person. My friends would say, Tammy, you are the dude in these relationships. And because I would be so extra because I felt like I needed to be the pursuer because I didn't want to get taken advantage of. I didn't want anybody to push me in spaces that I
mm,
was uncomfortable with. And
right.
so I would go ahead and push myself there so that I could
You were
control
in
the
control.
situation. Right. Right. And so that was my headspace. And that was my headspace for a while.
Wow. So again, the
Yeah.
lie is men are not safe. I
Men are
can't
not safe.
trust anybody to take care of me, so I'm gonna take care of myself and them too.
Right.
So then you attracted a certain kind of a man. Would
Absolutely.
let you do that and be in
Hmm.
relationship with you that way. Wow. And even your friends could see it from the outside. You're the dude.
I was the cold
Relationships
one.
with men.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was the cold one. Like it was very bad. Like I don't even know how to explain it, but I was so toxic when it came to relationships. And I would try to do every and anything that I possibly could to not allow my heart to get attached to it
Yeah. Well,
because I
and
didn't want to get experience that hurt.
yeah. I mean, again,
Right.
fear of hurt,
Because
physically,
what are
emotionally.
the lies that I'm telling myself at that point? I don't deserve to be loved.
Mm, yeah.
So love is not going to find me. And so if love is not going to find me, then why should I accept this person in the space and allow them to just treat me any kind of way?
And I didn't mention, but I want to circle back as you say this, is that and you initiated the sex.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you were still in control even in that. Didn't necessarily want to
Absolutely.
do it, but I'm gonna do you before you do me kind of thing.
Exactly. I was the initiator,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So,
And going back to your sense of worth, deserving to be loved.
yeah. Hmm.
Brings tears in my eyes to say that out loud. And I
Absolutely.
intentionally take these pauses to just you're talking and you're telling and to just I want you to hear it back.
Yeah.
You know, that's big.
It was a process. It was a process.
That's so important to mention. I love that you said that. There's a process of our breaking. So
Yeah.
there's a process to our healing when we get to the point of saying, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So tell me, after you were that in the toxic dude chick running the relationships with men.
That happened for years, actually. For years, I was this toxic person, and then I landed in a toxic relationship where I actually became vulnerable. But somewhere in the midst of all of that, I found God, right? It was because my mom, kudos to my mom, because we were together at this point. I was an adult at this point. But kudos to her because she was pressuring me to join a church choir, go to church, do something. Like it was like, do something with your life because I'm still living in that child, little girl mentality.
Mm.
And there was this group, they were having auditions, and my mom was like, "You really need to go and audition for this. I need you to like go audition." And I did not even want to do it. I was like, "I'm gonna just do it for you because you just won't leave me alone about it." I went to the audition in my club attire because I was like, "I'm gonna just go here and then I'm gonna just go sing just so that I could appease you, and then my friends are gonna come and get me. We're gonna go to the club." And so I went to the audition for this group. It was a very prominent group in the Bahamas because I was in the Bahamas at this point. My parents had moved back. And while I'm there, I'm singing, not even with my heart. I didn't even know any church songs. I was singing just what my dad he used to play Falling in Love with Jesus all the time.
Uh-huh.
So I sang just the chorus of that because that's all I knew. And as soon as it was done, I called my friends and was like, "Hey, can y'all come and get me?" Like it was like that. Um,
Just
and,
checking a
and then I
box.
left.
So
Pardon?
you were just checking a box.
I was just checking a box,
But
literally
apparently
just
you can
checking a
sing,
box.
girl. Apparently.
Apparently a little bit, just a little bit. But they called me back the next day and then they were like, "Hey, we want to, have a conversation with you and we want to, possibly invite you to sing in this group." And I did not know that, this group was going to be the group that would ultimately put me in a space to change my entire life. Right? This is when I started, going to church because they were very prominent. We started traveling, we started doing all kind of things. And during this time, I'm introduced to God. I'm introduced to the space where, my whole life just starts changing. My behavior is changing. I'm understanding God. I want to grow in God. I want to grow this intimate relationship with God. My whole life overnight becomes consumed in God for the 7 years that I was in that group. The 7 years I was in that group, it was just me and God going through that process. When I joined, I had a daughter at that point. And so it was just me and her going to church and everything God, going after God, chasing God, doing everything God. And it was such a beautiful time because I was introduced to who God is and not just who he is, but to be able to have a relationship with him
Mhm.
and to go through the process of like, hey, like you are worthy, like you are somebody, you are my child, you are special. Like I had to go through that whole process and it took a while for me to be able to get it, but when I finally got it, I got it. I got it. and I clung on to that. Um, but what didn't happen was, as I was in that space, I grew my relationship with God, but I was also being fed like, um, there was a lot of toxic situations in there as well. In terms of like, people could only be people, right? And so they recognize you for who you were, not who you are sometimes.
Mm.
And so even in that space, there were moments where I went into like a little shell because I didn't feel like I could be who God wanted me to be because I didn't have the confidence or the support to be able to back that up. In my mind, I didn't feel like I had that,
Mm.
right? And so I think a lot of that had to do was deal with the fact that I still had that unresolved trauma that I had never dealt with.
Right.
And so now God is taking me through this experience where he's showing me who he is, but I'm not necessarily dealing with the trauma of my past because that part of me had been hidden.
Yeah.
And so as I'm growing up and, growing in God, I'm getting what I need to learn God, but I wasn't getting the healing that I need for the experiences of my past.
And that's why this space I think is so important. I think both of us are in spaces where talking about the things that don't get talked about in church
Oh, yeah.
and the
Yeah.
connection. I mean, I think this is the bridge to little girls that have been abused sexually
Hmm.
grow up and
Hmm.
and are women, and now how do they view sex? How do they view themselves in sex?
Yeah.
How does an unhealed, unreconciled, traumatic life or perception and
Yeah.
identity now show up? God, you know who God was, God's worth, but did you know yours?
Right.
And then how do you reconcile? But God, how did all that happen? And that's one thing I talk about in my workbook is God was always there with you,
Yeah.
even when it was bad,
Even when it was bad.
because His
Absolutely.
love is perfect. People, and they're like you said, people be people, and as they say, that was the broken part.
Yeah.
Those broken people that took advantage of little girls who just wanted to be with their mother,
Yeah.
who was just being a good girl because you could only say so many times, I want my mommy, I want to go home. What? And they're gonna be like, look, it's not gonna happen. How
Absolutely.
crushing that is. And even the message of you knew your mother wanted you, but again, as a little girl, when you want your mommy to give you a hug at that moment, that night, to go to sleep,
Yeah.
she's not there.
Yeah. She was not there.
That's a thing.
It was a thing. It was a thing. And I think, being in church where, you come from trauma, but you're not being healed from the trauma, but then you're being told a different story in terms of, you know, um, all sex is bad,
Hmm.
and all of these things are so, so bad. And that's all I was being told is
Yeah.
that sex is bad. Right. And so
Yeah.
later on, when I got married, I'm going into a marriage thinking, man, how do you be free when sex is bad? I did so much in the world, right? I was open and did whatever it was I wanted to do. But now I'm actually in something that's a covenant, that's with my husband, and I can't be free.
Yeah.
There was a problem with that.
The shame-based teaching about sexuality in church is, I almost want to say, demonic because of what it destroys in the
Hmm.
covenant that
Yeah,
God wants us to have. Adam and Eve walked around in the garden naked and were unashamed.
unashamed.
The complete freedom of that. But when we're told, and so you were not in church at all as a kid?
In and out. My mom's church, we would go in and out, but not a lot. No.
Not, yeah. Okay.
Not my grandmother went to church. We went to a good old Baptist church. They were very strict. I remember her god brother was the pastor we called Reverend Saunders, and he would just tap you like he was the one who would just tap you. You couldn't move, you couldn't do anything. Like it was just very strict. That's all I remember was that we were not allowed to do much.
So the love of God didn't show up at all in that.
We knew that we were gonna get beaten when we go to church.
Okay. I know. Not the message we're going for here.
Good old Baptist, right? That's what we knew.
Mm.
That's what we knew.
So what a awakening
Yeah.
to know how much God loved you.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
For sure. I started realizing more about his love after I got married because it was there where I got stuck in that space of the trauma that I've experienced and having to love my husband the way that God wanted me to. And so that's when I said, God, I need to understand this. I need to be able to deal with the trauma because I want to be free. I want to be able to embrace my spouse the way that you desire, you know? And so then I started exploring and learning God and how he sanctified the beauty of sex and marriage and all of these things. And for me, it was so powerful. The coming together of a husband and wife, it was so powerful. And
Mm.
so many people don't get to experience that because of the trauma that they experience. They don't know how to how to live that out in a marriage because when you have had trauma, you keep reliving the trauma. There
Mm.
are moments in your marriage where you're going to be re-traumatized because of the way that the way that they touch you, right? The way that like so many different things, like you never really know when you're going to be triggered.
Mhm.
And so when you don't deal with the trauma before you get married, it begins manifesting when you are married.
Yes. So do you have a suggestion, a recommendation, or even just a thought about how someone who's facing that can approach through the little girl lens or anything around that to get unstuck, to address those things that you're talking about in marriage and sex in marriage, in a godly marriage?
So it's a process, right? And I want to give a kudos to my husband because having a spouse who understands that you've experienced something
Mhm.
and they will meet you where you're at so that they can, you know, walk with you as you go through the process, it helps a lot. And I know a lot of people don't have that. But having a husband who is gentle with you, who's patient, who's kind, all of these things, that is what helps, right? And when you don't, it's really digging deeper into that relationship with God and how to asking God to heal you, first of all, of those broken wounds that you've had as a little girl, because He wants you to be in a marriage that's healthy and whole. He wants you to be healed. He wants you to be able to embrace your spouse in the way that He desires, because that is going to reflect who He is,
Yeah.
right? And so, having to just separate yourself and just finding out that you are worthy, right?
Mm.
Going through a period of finding out who you are in Christ is what's going to help you. And actually paying attention to what's happening, right? Acknowledging that these things have happened to you because there are so many people who don't even acknowledge the trauma because they don't want to relive it.
Yes.
But it's so important that you acknowledge that these things have happened to me because when you acknowledge it, it gives God something to work with,
Yes.
right? He doesn't allow you to go through these things on your own. Like you've experienced them because life is happening. But God says that he doesn't give you anything more than what you can bear, right? So
Yeah.
if you've experienced it, God can heal you from it. And then that story can turn into something that will be beneficial to somebody else. But to get to you, you have to acknowledge, you have to voice and say, God, I went through this thing and I was hurt by it. I need to be healed from this. I want to be able to embrace you. I want like you literally have to put God in that space where he can do the work that is required so that you can start walking in your healing.
And I love that because I hear not only in sex, you had to be healed enough to even share this with your husband. How could he have understood if you didn't tell him? You had to
Absolutely.
share
And
with him what you had been
absolutely.
through. And it expands and
Absolutely.
applies how we see ourselves in general. That's amazing, Tammy. What a
Absolutely.
blessing to have had those true, authentic kind of conversations. Again, being able to show up as your real self goes all the way back to her. Knock on your door. Can you come out and play? Hey, by the way, let me tell you some
Mhm.
stuff that's happened in my life.
Yeah. It didn't happen overnight now I went in and there were some things that I told him after.
Hmm.
And he was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know? But I made journaling a huge part of my process.
Yes.
And it was those times when God really stepped in and he even while I was writing, God was reminding me of things that happened. And
Mm,
that's when I was like, man, I never even told my husband this because
yeah.
I didn't even remember. I
That's beautiful.
didn't even remember.
It's so amazing. I interviewed somebody that's a journaling coach, and she talked about how the power of that is that you sometimes you're just doing a brain dump, sometimes you read back over that, and sometimes it's a conversation. God, show me, teach me, talk to me. Really, what you're talking about is a form of that where you didn't even know you were going to get what you were writing
Absolutely.
as you were writing,
Absolutely.
and that he positioned it in his perfect divine timing that it was now it's time to tell your husband this one
Yeah.
because he was undoubtedly preparing his heart to hear it before you gave, you know,
Absolutely.
before you said
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Wow, Tammy, that's fantastic. And our little girls need that space to be heard.
Yes.
If I was your life coach, I probably would say, go back and think of all the things you wanted to say at grandma's house that you didn't say, and write that. That voice, you know, some of that time stuff is still in there for me. My trauma ended up having physical manifestation with illness and
Mm,
and my kids
mm.
actually failed in my 30s.
Oh, wow.
And undoubtedly, it was internalized, unresolved trauma, pain, an inability to articulate how I really felt inside.
Wow.
So I never take that lightly because
Hmm.
you just think, oh, I'll just stuff it because we're not supposed to say it, but it doesn't go away. It goes somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and then into our mental health, sexual mental health.
Oh, yeah.
You see, if you, so how did you get yourself, how did you transition from because you get the absolute sex, all sex is bad, and then you're married and okay, go have sex. What was your process to,
Understanding sex, understanding it. That's how I got into the space. One of my favorite quotes is by a theologian. He says that the ultimate reason why we are sexual is to make God more deeply known,
mm,
right? And I was like, God, I really want to know more of you. Tell me more about this. It was me having intentional conversations with God for him to be able to teach me about the beauty of the way that he viewed sex. And from there, as I started to get more knowledge, and just around the science and having conversations with women about, their sex lives, and I'm just thinking like I'm having conversations with women because at some point I started selling products. Um, I had a conversation with my spouse because I got into the space where, anyways, I woke him up about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning one morning, and I was like, "Babe, I think I want to get into the sex business, right?" And he's like, he's like crazy, like what? But he's like, okay, whatever. At this point, he trusts me, right? And so I started having like gatherings that women could come to, and we would have like intimate conversations. And when they came in the room, it was just me and them. And I would speak to women who were married for 20 and 30 years, and they would tell me things like they've never even experienced an orgasm.
mhm,
And I'm just like, how is that even possible? It's because they had that purity message wrapped up in their brain.
right.
you know? And so I went on this whole mission to get people to understand like, no, sex is beautiful. Sex was created by God. This is something that God wants you to do. It's something that connects you with your spouse so that you can learn more about God, the beauty of God. Like there's so much power in you and your spouse connecting. It's something that you should be enjoying. It's not a chore, right? It's something that you should want to do because it pleases God. And so going through that process of just understanding how important the sexual aspect, the sexual elements is, I just wanted to spread that word because as I learned, I was like, man, this is so powerful. And it blew my mind that women didn't know how to identify body parts, and like it was just so much. I'm like, why are you so afraid of sex? You know? And it's because there's so much trauma and shame, and there's so many people who've experienced trauma that they shy away from it because they they don't want to approach things that makes them feel uncomfortable or reminds them of something that was painful in the past.
Yes. And even shame-based teaching about
Yeah,
sex, just even the mechanics, right?
absolutely.
Is like shameful to talk about it. And I love
And that's added.
yeah,
Oh,
good.
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say you saw
I,
that for yourself. You didn't
yeah,
say this is for my husband to help me figure out. You sought that
no,
for yourself because you wanted to know God. That quote was so powerful because it's wanting to know who God really is. The intimacy that he has for the church
yes,
is reflective of the intimacy he
absolutely,
wants us to have in marriage. And what were you going to say?
absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, those messages are taught to us on top of the trauma that we've experienced.
Yes,
And so when you add the layers, this is why people stay away.
absolutely. I got
You're
it.
you're saying you're saying that sex is dirty,
Right.
but yet this thing happened to me. So now am I dirty?
Back to the lies.
Back to the lies.
Yeah. And even the disconnect, calling it a purity message,
Yeah.
and then now go do it with your husband.
Having the ability to communicate and be more in tune with your spouse as well, because a lot of times women are just mentally not there because they have so much going on. But when you have a spouse who is supportive of you, who shares in the load, right? So that you don't feel the heaviness, then it'll feel less like a chore when you have that balance. But
Yeah.
in order for you to have that, you have to know who you are, be able to communicate your needs to your spouse. And hopefully you have a spouse who can support you in that.
Yes. Hopefully you check for that before your spouse. Unfortunately, that does not happen all the time.
Not all the
Again,
time.
back to the premarital counseling message. The marriage lab should be in everybody's secret. Having had marriages that failed and premarital counseling in the church with both of them, but they don't talk about the stuff that you really need to talk about sometimes.
Yeah.
Not in
Yeah.
the case and not
Yeah.
to the level of honesty
Yeah.
and the details.
Yeah.
So I see what you bring to the table is amazing. How,
Thank you.
how do people work with you? What's your process?
So you would go on my website. My website is yourmarriagelab.com. And basically I have links there where you can reach out to me to connect.
All right. Well, we'll make sure to put all that in the description to get in touch with Tammy and Sex for Saints podcast. When does that drop?
So I have a series, it's called Married Sex Mondays. It drops on Mondays at 6 p.m. So we get candid about all things sex, relationships, love, singleness, dating, marriage, all the stuff.
Wonderful. Okay. What would you tell our listeners is just you probably have said it, but just as a reminder, what was the final nugget that you would drop as you think of what we've talked about cohesively?
Oh man, I would say that you are not forgotten.
Hmm.
You are not too much. You are not too broken to be loved. God saw you then and he still sees you now. He knew you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. That's how valuable you are. And so this means that you are chosen. You are a chosen vessel, set apart. Long before anybody did anything to you, God already knew your story before you did.
Hmm.
And so I just pray that, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up all their wounds, that God will bind your wounds.
That's love it. Yay. Praise God. That is my phrase of the season for sure, that he has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. That part of Isaiah 61, 1 through 2 and 3, just so amazing, and so grateful for you sharing that. Thank you for your words. Thank you for the women whose lives that you are touching, the marriages that you are enhancing by
Thank you.
bringing this to believers who have been confused, abused and confused in their understanding of sexuality and themselves as women and as wives. So blessings to you.
Thank you.
Bless you in
I
it.
am.
I will meet
I
you.
am.
I can't wait to meet you there.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And to our audience, if you heard something that struck your heart, I'm hearing two things. So I'm just put I am worthy to be loved. It's a long one, but worthy at the very minimum. You are not here by accident. God wants you to hear this message, whatever stage you are in relationship. This was for you. This was to you. There's healing message in that. Take your notes, go back, add this in your, as you use your No More Lies guided workbook and healing journal. There's places to write about this in there as well. As you see yourself, as you identify yourself, as you honor your little girl for what she's been through. So blessings to you. Until next time. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you for having me.
So happy to make available to you the No More Lies guided workbook and healing journal. Here's a quick peek inside that will help you get your own copy to see what we've been talking about and having a place to write your thoughts as you remember your little girl, identify the lies, find the truth, and then rehearse that truth so that you can walk into the purpose God has called you to. Go to stacyspeakshope.com and order your copy today. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you for watching Staci Speaks Hope. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.
Wrong woman, holding in story she needs to tell what God really wants you to do in this world. In His name, hope to break free from the shackles and the lies that have become your truth and put blinders on your eyes. You built walls around your heart. You have plugged up your ears. Get freedom to hope's what you need. It's in reach. Wipe your tears, little girl.